Hello my fellow world explorers, welcome back to another reaction video. Today I'll be reacting to Canada and the United States compared. In my last video I watched the history of Canada. It's a country that has always fascinated me, and I've always looked at these two countries, the United States and Canada, as kind of similar in my eyes. Now the only two differences that I know of, at least from what I hear, is that Canadians are nicer than Americans. Like, Americans are rough around the edges, while Canadians are nice, and also the United States, there are lots of guns in the United States. So compared to Canada, I'm not saying that there are no guns in Canada, but I know that in the United States, it's not even, comparing both countries, is not even close. So those are the only two differences that I know of. So hopefully I'll be able to see more differences that these two countries, or maybe similarities that these two countries could share with each other. Guys, please join me on this journey of world exploration by subscribing to the channel, smashing the like button, and hitting the notification bell for more content. Now let's get into the video.
Canada and the United States of America, the two biggest countries in North America.
We coexist together because we're all Canadian. We're part of Canada, and we're bonding together against the common enemy, the United States. What a horrible country. I live there now. They're the most un-Canadian people you will ever meet in your life.
Nah, actually, both have a lot in common. Whoa, are we really gonna do this? Okay,
yeah,
let's do this. Both have very close cultural and economic ties. So actually, both are two of the biggest countries in the world. Canada is slightly bigger than the United States. Both share the world's longest border between two countries. The border stretches 5,525 miles, or, 8,891 kilometers. Yeah, while Canada has officially adopted the metric system as a whole, the United States is only one of 3 countries in the entire world that hasn't. That said, plenty of Canadians don't always use the metric.
I've noticed that, every time I watch anything about the US, they'll be using pounds instead of kg. I guess US are one of the few countries that are still using a different metric system compared to the rest of the world.
System to measure stuff, and plenty of Americans do often use the metric system. Anyway, let's stick with more similarities first, okay? Both are two of the
metric system. Okay, so the one that we use is metric system, while the one the United States is different. I'm confused now. I shouldn't have even. I'm now confused.
Wealthiest, most developed countries in the world. Immigrants have flocked to both countries for economic opportunity for centuries, which is why major cities in both are some of the most ethnically diverse in the world. Both have mixed economies and have a progressive tax system on income. However, Canadians definitely pay higher taxes overall.
Really?
Oh, lots of trading be going on between the two. The United States is Canada's largest trading partner, and Canada is consistently a top 3 trading partner for the United States. Both are in NATO and have historically fought as allies in wars. Both have lots of natural resources. Both have a wide variety of climates and rainfall patterns. Both are democratic. Specifically, the United States is a democratic republic, and Canada is a parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy. Both are growing at the same rate. Residents of both generally like their space space. Indeed, everything is more spread out in both countries. Both have mostly the same holidays. Yeah, they both celebrate Thanksgiving, but of course not on the same day. Americans celebrated on the 4th Thursday of November. Canadians celebrated on the 2nd Monday of October. This is partially because Americans associate the holiday more with the Pilgrims coming over, while Canadians associate it more with the Harvest Festival in general. Hey, but certainly modern-day Canada, around 1,000 years ago. Throughout the 1500s, European explorers came searching for riches and to take over and convert indigenous peoples to their religion. The big three countries to explore, conquest, convert,
Spain,
and
England, and
colonize
France.
were Spain, England, and
Wow.
France. The Dutch and Swedes also had small claims as
PewDiePie.
well, and the Russians out west later on. Ultimately, future Canada and a big chunk of the future United States would be fought over by the British and French, while the Spanish held on to claims for another big chunk of the future United States up into future Canada. By the early 1700s, around a few thousand Spanish, 16,000 French, and 300,000 English settlers lived in modern-day
16,000
United States
French.
and Canada. That alone should tell you the direction the future would go. But first, a few wars between France and Britain. The biggest one, the 7 Years' War, well, specifically the French and Indian War, led to Britain taking over all previously held French
The British
territory in mainland
savage.
North America. Britain was feeling pretty good about themselves until 13 of its colonies decided to all up and declare independence a few
United
years
States
after this.
Revolutionary
Today,
War.
Americans celebrate July 4th, 1776, as their country's birthday, as that was the day the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. After the American War of Independence, Britain lost most of its North American colonies, but it did hold on to future Canada. Many of the loyalists during that war, or folks who wanted to stay loyal
They
to
fled to
Britain,
Canada.
ended up fleeing the United States to future Canada. The
Yeah,
United
I'm learning
States
stuff
was
now.
truly an experiment. It was the first government that
I'm
went
beginning to know
all
stuff.
in for the Enlightenment ideals of liberalism and republicanism, completely rejecting royalty and the aristocracy, while calling for prioritizing the protection of natural rights. It was the first major group of colonies to successfully revolt against colonial rule
Wow.
and inspire the rest of the world. Meanwhile, in 1791, Britain established Upper Canada and Lower Canada. Lower Canada still had a predominantly French population. Also by that time, there were the colonies of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. In 1803, the United States bought Louisiana from France, doubling the size of the country. Now let's jump ahead to the War of
Wait.
1812. Most Canadians today know all about the War of 1812 and love
Wait, guys. So Louisiana was actually bought, not conquered. I thought it was conquered. It was actually bought. That is weird. Seriously, that is really, really weird. I thought it was like conquered though. I didn't really know. I know Alaska was bought from Russia, but that was like in kind of modern times, kind of modern times. In those days, most territories were taken by force, not by diplomacy. So it's weird to me. I'm surprised.
to point out how this was the war when the British forces burnt down the White House. Most Americans barely know anything about the War of 1812, so hey, Americans, why don't you educate yourselves on it, okay? Mr. Betts has just released a video about it over on his new channel, Drawn of History. Go watch it right now and come back, or watch it later or something. I don't know. This is a collaboration, okay? Yes, we plan to release these videos at the same time. It's a conspiracy. Anyway, yeah, so the future Canadians and Americans battled it out in the War of 1812, but really, it was a draw. One thing for sure, after that war, things have been relatively peaceful between the two countries ever since. Well, there was the Oregon boundary dispute. As both the United Kingdom and the United States looked to continue expanding westward, both had signed the Treaty of 1818 to settle boundary disputes and to jointly settle an Oregon country. However, as more and more American settlers came to Oregon by the 1840s, tensions got a little hot between the two. Fortunately, they resolved it with the Oregon Treaty, splitting up Oregon at the 49th parallel so that the United Kingdom got the northern half and the United States got the southern half. That 49th parallel today makes up much of the border between the United States and Canada. I guess later there was also a dispute between Alaska and the United Kingdom as well. Once gold was discovered in the Yukon, that was settled relatively easily. Back to the 1840s, the United States annexed the Republic of Texas, eventually leading to a war with Mexico, which the United States won and then got the northern half of Mexico due to winning that war. A few years later, it got its modern contiguous borders after the Gadsden Purchase. During the American Civil War, future Canada officially stayed neutral, although tens of thousands of men from future Canada enlisted to help the Union forces. Most from future Canada, after all, were against slavery by this time, and future Canada had long been a final destination for runaway slaves through the Underground Railroad. The British had gotten rid of slavery back in 1834. Anyway, a couple years after the Union was preserved and the 13th Amendment ended slavery in the United States, Canada actually became a country. Well, kind of. Mostly. They were a dominion, still technically part of the British Empire, but self-governing. Today, Canada Day is kind of like the 4th of July or Independence Day in the States. Canadians celebrate it on the anniversary of the Canadian Confederation being established on July 1st, 1867, in which the three colonies of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick united. So here is how Canada looked at the time. But over the following decades, it expanded dramatically, and the United States tried to expand overseas. After getting Alaska, it aggressively found itself trying to gain a bunch of islands who mostly were not too happy being taken over. Kind of like all those Native Americans who had their lands stolen over the previous 2 centuries. Canadians generally did not treat indigenous peoples much better as they expanded. Both countries discriminated against people of color, and segregation was the norm into the first half of the 1900s. Most reforms in both countries during that time, such as women finally getting the right to vote, followed a similar pattern during that time. Canada and the United States were close allies during both the World Wars. While the United Kingdom put Canada with full equal standing with it in 1931, most Americans have no idea that Canada didn't truly become a completely independent country until 1982, after it adopted its own constitution. After World War II, both countries went through very prosperous times and continued to follow similar paths with reforms. However, Canada went a bit further with its government programs and has been more left-leaning, and this trend continues to this day. Canada also seems to have gone in a more progressive direction earlier. For example, it legalized same-sex marriage 10 years before the United States. Today, many of the differences between Canada and the United States are linked to the fact that Canada stayed loyal to Britain for many years after the United States became a country, after breaking away from Great Britain. Most Americans love Canada. Less Canadians adore the United States, but still, they get along so freaking well. The United States has...
most Americans love Canada, but most Canadians don't really love the United States. I mean, is that true? Tell me down in the comments below. Is that really true?
more people, a lot more people. In fact, it has 9 times as many people and has the 3rd largest population in the world. California has more people than Canada. Remember, Canada is slightly bigger in size and is the 2nd largest country in the world by area, followed only by Russia. However, most of this area has few residents due to it being oh so very, very cold. 90% of Canadians actually live within 100 miles of the U.S. border.
90%.
And yeah, let's look at the climate more closely. Canada is perhaps obviously colder being further north, even if you include comparing it to Alaska. Most of Canada's climate zones are affected by very cold air from the Arctic region. There are exceptions. Along the southwestern coast of Canada, there is mostly an oceanic climate. Much of southern Canada has various types of continental or arid climate. climates. However, the vast majority of Canada is subarctic, and much of it is also tundra. The furthest northern areas of Canada are even permanently under ice. The United States is obviously warmer overall, but basically has every climate zone imaginable, from the rainforests of Hawaii to the tundra of Alaska, from the humid subtropical climate of most of the South and part of the Midwest to the deserts of the western portions of the country. Heck, you'll even see several different climate types within one state. The wettest parts of the country get as much as 275 inches of precipitation each year. On the other hand, Death Valley, which is often not only the driest but hottest place in the country, barely gets more than 2 inches of precipitation each year. Canada has just as crazy of difference. The driest parts of the country up in Nunavut get just over 3 inches of rain each year, and Henderson Lake on Vancouver Island gets more than 287 inches each year. It gets more rainfall than any other place in North America. There are 50 states in the United States, and also a federal district, 5 self-governing territories, and several other random island possessions. Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. The life expectancy is higher in Canada.
Really?
Related to this, Canada has universal health care. The United States does not. Yeah,
Just seems like Canada is ultimately a bit more mild, compared to the US. When you consider that life expectancy, seems just a bit more mild, and more peaceful, I guess, than the US.
politically, the United States is more conservative on most issues.
Really?
The median
I thought
age is
the United States
higher
was
in
more
Canada.
liberal.
Canada has 2 official languages, English and French. The majority of Quebec residents
I know
speak
Canada is way more liberal than the United States, but I thought US would be classified as a liberal country, not a conservative country. That's what I was thinking.
French as a first language. The United States has no official language, but the 2 most common languages are English and Spanish. The poverty rate is higher in the United States, although Canadians measure their poverty rate differently, so perhaps that is misleading. The United States also has worse debt as a percentage of GDP. However, the median household income is higher in the United States. Football, or American football, that is the most popular sport in the United States, whereas ice hockey is the most popular sport in Canada. Major League Baseball and the National Basketball League both have 29 American teams and 1 Canadian team. Those Canadian teams in both leagues are based in Toronto, which indeed is a city that feels like it
Yeah,
actually
that is
should
true.
be
That
in
is
the
true.
United States. The
Every
cost
time
of
I
living
always-
is generally
Every time I
high.
always looked at pictures of Toronto, it always looks like Dallas to me. Like, it's almost like the United States, most US cities.
In the United States. At the time of this recording, 1 Canadian dollar was worth about 76 cents, meaning Americans visiting Canada get more of a better
Wow.
deal. Normally, there is lots of movement going back and forth between
If I were American, I would have been doing that often. I would have been doing that really often. I mean, I would have just been going there to flex my US dollars once in a while. Like at least twice a year. I would definitely do that.
countries, but less so, obviously, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking of the pandemic, Canada has fared with
I
it
come from a country that has a very horrible currency, so I can't exactly do that in my own country. So Americans get to work, flex that dollars.
better than the United States. Canadians are generally less religious. For those who
really?
are religious, more identify as Roman Catholic, whereas in the United States, more identify as Evangelical Protestant. A higher percentage of Canadians have college degrees, although the United States is known for having some of the best colleges in the world, and yeah, Canada spends more on education. Despite agriculture being much more of a big deal in the United States, more Americans live in urban areas. Sure, almost 80% of Canadians live in urban areas, but 80% of the entire country is uninhabited. Most of Canada is straight up wilderness, and it has more wilderness than any other country other than Russia. Just about 18% of the United States is wilderness. Major industries in Canada include mining, healthcare, manufacturing.
I mean, a country having that so much land, like wilderness, literally, like nobody is there. Damn, that is crazy, man. 80%.
Transportation. Major industries in the United States also include healthcare and manufacturing, but additionally, technology and retail. According to the World Happiness Report, Canadians are happier than Americans. Canada is known for Tim Hortons.
Guys, how do they evaluate that? Like, how would someone evaluate me if I'm happy? Is this some kind of a psychological test? That seems bogus to me. Seriously, what is happiness? What do they call it? Happiness? What?
Technology and retail. According to the World Happiness Report, Canadians are happier than Americans. Canada is known for Tim Hortons. The United States is known for...
Guys, tell me down in the comments, are Canadians actually really happier than Americans? Are they? That's crazy.
Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Well, dang, while we're at it, the United States is known for so many freaking brands. 3 of the 5 biggest companies in the world, Walmart, Amazon, and Apple, are all based there. Probably the most well-recognized symbol of the United States is the bald eagle. The most well-recognized symbol of Canada, the maple leaf. It's even on the flag. The American flag has 13 stripes that represent the original 13 colonies and 50 stars that represent the 50 states of the Union. The United States has a much bigger military. In fact, it easily has the largest military in the world. No other country even comes close. Marijuana is completely legal in Canada, but in some American states it's still illegal. Canada has less violent crime. The United States has a higher percentage of its own citizens in prison than any other country in the world. That said, the United States is generally a more free place. One example of this is censorship. Perhaps due to Americans placing a high value on freedom of speech, you just hear and see more provocative and controversial stuff there. How about Canadian content, eh? The Canadian government actually requires that radio and TV broadcasters, including cable and satellite channels, have to broadcast at least a certain percentage of content that was at least partially created or presented by Canadian residents. Fortunately for Canada, lots of great music comes out of the country considering how much fewer folks live there. But yeah, American culture is more influential on the world. Throughout history, as the United States dominated mass media, it also spread its culture around the world through music, movies, TV shows, video games, and social media. There are 2 major reasons for this. 1, a spirit of innovation throughout American history, and 2, just having a huge domestic market. With the majority of Americans speaking English, they have also had access to a worldwide market of more than 2 billion English speakers. The United States is more nationalistic. If you tell a Canadian...
It's easier for Americans to sell their products abroad because of, most of the world speaks English. So an American can release a music, can release a movie. It's easier to sell around the world compared to, let's say, a French movie or a Spanish movie.
About the Pledge of Allegiance, many of them would be a bit confused, to say the least. Canada stopped making pennies. The United States still does, for some reason. Canadians generally do know a lot more about the United States than Americans know about Canada. Americans party harder. I have no scientific evidence to back this up, but it's probably true. Okay,
I wouldn't be surprised as well.
Up. Overall, most of the differences between the two are subtle, like Canadians apparently call these pencil crowns, but Americans call them colored pencils. And Canadians call these washrooms, and Americans call them bathrooms or restrooms. But honestly, folks like JJ McCullough argue those differences are overrated. Because both countries are so dang big, and because there are so many regional differences, it's been really difficult making this video, since many of these generalizations...
Alright guys, what do you think? I'm surprised he didn't mention guns. in any of those differences or similarities. If there is there anything that he missed in this video, you guys tell me in the comments down below. Any difference or any differences between the two countries, or of course maybe similarities as well. Put it down in the comments below. I would like to know. And guys, please smash the like button on your way out. It's very, very important. It helps with the algorithm. It will help more people see these videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.